If you bought XRP now for $500 or $1,000, how much would it be worth in the future if it hits its 3 or even 4-digit targets? Today, we will investigate that information. We'll also discuss how Ripple will use this unique method to surreptitiously introduce XRP into the banking system. I just wanted to make this video a little bit lighter. We will examine additional improvements related to XRP and Ripple. Here at the end, we will discuss Basel III and its benefits, XRP, Ripple, and their relationships. Now let's investigate this article. A section of the official State Bank of India document that addresses the growing trend of non-depository financial technology companies seeking entry into mainstream banking through regulatory channels, specifically, the Special Purpose National Bank Charter in the United States, has been brought to the attention of cryptocurrency researcher Smoke. According to the SBI statement, companies like BitGo, Circle, Wise, and Ripple are among those seeking SP&B charters, which might allow them to link straight into the financial system's core infrastructure and without the need for conventional intermediate banks. Currently, Ripple is essentially going to banks and collaborating with them, and through those banks, Ripple is gaining access to the Fed. I interpret this to mean that if Ripple becomes its own bank, it will have direct access to the Fed and may not require some of these intermediate arrangements with banks. Smoke highlighted the ramifications of Ripple's standing in the tweet, paraphrasing the content, and claimed that Ripple will eventually use the Special Purpose National Bank Charter to smuggle XRP into the banking mainframe. He referenced an SBI communication that called the scene a mad rush by fintech companies with a connection to cryptocurrency to acquire a national bank charter with particular purposes. According to the document, they would be able to enter mainframe banking covertly and avoid middle banks if I were to use that acronym. I take it that all of this has a legitimate timestamp? Additionally, you must realize that Trump has somewhat gone out and begun to attack the banks that were debanking him, as well as other Republicans. Trump has stated that Trump isn't interested in hearing what these banks have to say about trying to prevent the cryptocurrency startups from being granted bank charters, in my opinion. Thus, there is some drama occurring at a higher level as a result of this. I believe that Trump wants to stick it to some of these banks, which is why I envision the Trump administration accepting these licenses. And giving their rivals an advantage is the best way to achieve that, isn't it? Therefore, I believe we shall witness that. That's just my opinion, though. You can inform me. Write down your thoughts in the description. Let me check. According to the Wall Street Journal, the White House is drafting an executive order that will target banks that discriminate against conservatives and cryptocurrency companies who deal with debanking practices, potentially subjecting them to fines and penalties. This is one way that I believe Trump will be able to follow through on his plan to stick it to the banks. Interestingly, there is a wild rush on depository financial technology companies, according to the highlighted section below, attempting to avoid and essentially what we have read above. I don't have to read it to you again. Additionally, it mentions the Special Purpose National Bank that is part of Ripple's banking integration strategy. The slide from the SBI's presentation states that businesses can function as legal banking organizations without having to be traditional depository institutions thanks to the Special Purpose Charter. Obtaining such a charter may give crypto-related businesses like Ripple the regulatory protection they need to introduce digital assets into formal banking environments, such as those that are typically subject to intermediary bank and government authorities. SBI acknowledges Ripple's active participation in financial infrastructure innovation by recognizing the company in particular. Deeper integration of digital assets into the American financial system could be facilitated by Ripple's pursuit of special purpose national bank status. Even though the SBI document mentions a number of businesses, Smoke interpretation centers on XRP is probably going to gain if Ripple is successful in obtaining the charter. I can see why Smoke is drawing that connection and that tie since he shares a lot of information about Ripple directly. The possibility of XRPs, in a related comment, cryptocurrency pundit BD in the Home added a conditional note of optimism, saying that while approval is not assured, you will transform the lives of many members of your family if and when you possess XRP. This statement recognizes the unpredictability of regulatory outcomes while highlighting the possible value shift that XRP investors can expect. I believe we've already talked about this. My sentiments on this site. I believe that Ripple receives this license, and some of these other businesses do as well. Should more due diligence be done to ensure that these companies don't somehow gain a national bank charter and turn out to be unscrupulous actors? Since this is the top, you should definitely take a little more time to just validate who you will be granting access to the status. Furthermore, Ripple Bank would be present, correct? National Bank of Ripple. Additionally, you would have RLUSD reserves at the Fed with a master account and XRP directly attached. There isn't another cryptocurrency that I'm aware of that accomplished that, correct? All right, Circle? However, isn't Circle a stable coin? XRP is a stablecoin and a bridge asset. Here, we're essentially getting the best of both worlds. Some Bitcoin maximalists would be even more enraged by this. Which, hey guy, I know we're having an effect someplace when I get on and see folks sobbing on Twitter about, XRP being criticized. In the perspective of many of these people, we're living rent-free. And I've kind of halted the back and forth here, but they will never end. Okay, folks, the description will have both of these links. Enjoy your wonderful day. I hope the video was enjoyable to you. Goodbye.